on. We are live. Beautiful sunrise. Oh, what a great day. What a great Asian day here at the Call to Action podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Camacho. With me today, we've got Nat Vu. I never point this right. Damn it. Again.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? We have a great show ahead of us for you.
Yep. Before we introduce our wonderful guest host, you probably recognize him from the famous Chill to Action on this podcast. Nat, what's AAA stand for today, buddy?
Oh, it's funny you should ask. This week, AAA stands for Admiral Akbar's Association.
Hey, that's a Star Wars reference. I get that. But somebody else who probably gets that is our guest host today, Andrew Dimilanta, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm thrilled to have not only a competitor, an Asian competitor, a Star Wars competitor, but also a fellow community podcaster now.
Yeah. I'm excited to do. We're 7 episodes in, so loving every second of it.
Oh man, and I have finally got around to catching 2 of those episodes, the most 2 recents with Roka, and then who was
Goddard. We had Goddard on the week before.
Goddard, Bagel Boy, that's right.
Oh, he doesn't like that anymore.
No, he's the bandit now. He's the bandit.
He's the bandit.
Everybody. But yeah, so I've got to check out those 2 episodes finally because I said for a while, I'm like, I'm not going to be a terrible host and have people on and not watch their stuff. I'm like, I'm actually going to do the research. That's why I wanted to do this shit. And man, I'm super stoked about your stuff. I haven't been big on like a lot of the audio stuff. Mostly because in my time, whenever I'm listening to audio, I'm putting on an audio book, and it's nothing against any of the other podcaster stuff out there. I just want to listen to the Witcher books right now.
Yeah.
But yes, they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've got to check out these last 2 episodes. They were super cool. It feels really great and also threatening to have a competitor come into the podcast world because I'm like, shit, we've got to actually keep putting out championship level material now. But yeah, you're definitely steaming in, man. I'm so glad to have this edition. You and a bunch of new blood coming in, but having, of course, a competitor is a big name. So there's plenty of stuff. We'll be plugging Andrew and his show and his Patreon. He will forget otherwise.
Yes, I will forget. I forgot to mention Chill to Action earlier this week, so I will not forget.
Yeah, so we'll be plugging that all throughout the night. But this is AAA Live. Wait, there it is. AAA Live. Welcome to the show, everybody. I don't know who's all tuned in right now. I'm not paying attention to the comments or anything. So I just want to go ahead and preamble. If this is your first time tuning into AAA Live, this is Admiral Akbar Association, AAA, Action, Asian, whatever, all the A's. Put that into the AAA Live. That's what it stands for.
I forgot to say, it's not a trap.
It's not.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. It's a trap. No, what's a trap is our polls on Twitter, and we're going to get into that. I wanted to make sure that Dimilanta felt like he had a good platform for his podcast, so I made ours look as bad as possible for this episode, so that everybody looks great. We will get into Twitter drama here shortly, but this whole episode, this is all going to be very sports-centery. We're going against stats. We're looking into all that good stuff. We're a little lazy on stats this episode because we brought Dimilanta on because he did all the work for us. So
as much as I could.
Yeah, as much as he could with that. So we'll be talking about how to beat Alex Damon towards the later end of this episode. But without further ado, Nat, let's get into a spicy Twitter poll.
Let's get into it.
Okay, all right. Let me pull it up real quick. You want to banter with everybody for a second?
Yeah. So this poll did crazy numbers. It had 274 votes. That's 274 votes. And basically what we want to find out about this is like, who do people think is the most dominant faction? And honestly, like our plan, we didn't want to like this not include anyone, but it just kind of shaped out that way. We wanted to, the only thing that mattered was we had Finstock Exchange in there, and it didn't matter who the other 3 were. Like our point was people were going to vote for the Finstock Exchange no matter what.
Mm-hmm. So, and I know that if some managers or some people from other factions pop on in, I wanted to have this a little bit later in the episode in case they're just like, oh, we're going to miss this part and just stay mad at the podcast. First of all, Twitter only gives us 4 options, all right? Do you know how many factions? Andrew, how many factions are there right now?
There are 9 factions.
9 factions, which means I'm not going to put the 5 up because I know that Jake's going to screenshot it and say I'm a 5 horseman creator in the podcast. I see you, Jake, in the chat. But yeah, so that means 5 are going to be left off. And it did not matter, guys. Anybody tuning into these comments, because this comment, I'm not going to get into the comments. It gets wild. But I'll take this away for right now. So it did not matter which other 3 factions we picked, because with fair certainty, everybody, and Andrew, tell me if I'm wrong, thought that the Finstock Exchange is going to be the top dog faction right now. Would you agree with that statement?
I totally agree. I mean, I just by pure numbers alone, it's the best faction at all, because we have teams and singles belt, 4 legends, well, 3 legends, and Ben Bateman, who's gonna be a legend by the end of his Schmodown career. It's just I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was the Facebook group that I saw this. Like, somebody actually did pure numbers by wins, records, belt holders, everything, like pure numbers. Finstock Exchange was at the top. Like, and I can't remember who was last, but like it's unquestionably just by wins alone, because we have I believe all 4 of the horsemen all have double-digit wins. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds bad.
I don't think Bateman has double digits, but I know Roca, Riley, and Merle all have double-digit wins.
Yeah.
So and me alone, like, I have 0 wins. Even with that on our record, we still have like we have 2 rookies that have yet to play a match. Even with those people, including myself, we still have the numbers that show like, yeah, we're the top faction. Right.
So this is one of the big things we look at on this show, guys. There's nothing personal. I'm not saying that. Listen, 100%. I support the Rockstar, support the Dungeon, support the Den, support the usual suspects, not in that order, because somebody will be upset they weren't listed first.
Yeah.
Is that a good job? Damn it. I said I wasn't going to do that this year. So, but listen, I support all of you guys 100%. There's no shade, no disrespect, nothing like that. But you only get 4 options. And so far, a lot of the fan base, listen, there's 10 people on this podcast, and Dimilanta may not have voted as well. There's 270 other votes that had to go into that thing.
I did not vote because again, it'd be biased, because I have to vote for my own faction.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. It wasn't in any short number by a lot. Now, listen, somebody could say, but Dylan, you didn't have the usual suspects, and we think they're going to be like the second best. Or you didn't have Mercs with the Mercs with the mouse. They could have had. Yeah, listen, there's a lot of contention on that. But I think the point is the fan base by a lot believes that the Finstock Exchange is on top. And who am I to say otherwise? The stats are there. They have champs, soon to be champs. I'm already putting that bin on Dimilanta early on, and that's no disrespect against Alex Damon. Swell fellow. Had a great talk with him. It's spectacular. But Dimalanta's going to take it because he's hungry, and I'm not just saying that because he's on the show. So let's get into it, though, Nat. So that's the perception, and this is where we're going to get into our next little bit. Let me find the banner for it. Perception versus reality. Exchange. Top dog. Sorry, I had to type it in. You can tell that this is a award-winning podcast. There we go.
No, there it is.
Top dog? There we go. I had to say it with that question mark part. The stats are all there, Nat. They have the players. Are they the best faction of all time already?
See, I'm not sure they are, because on paper, yes, they are they're stacked. They have most skilled players on their roster, but in terms of who will end up with the most points, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, because the disadvantage that Indians have is that they don't play as much. They got more points for championship matches, but let's say you draft a rookie like last year, for example, Kevin Smets. He had a ton of points by the end of the season. And when you look at Mike Kalinowski, who was the champion for most of it, I think he had 4 matches. Kevin Smets had 7 matches, and he ended up with way more points. So I think there's strategy to drafting a rookie with a lot of potential. And Finstock Exchange has 2 rookies, I think, Barbarian and
BC.
And BC.
Right.
So I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's a lock that Finstock Exchange are going to be the winners at the end.
Right. And, Andrew, this is kind of where I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit and kind of get some behind-the-scenes stuff, because we had heard some rumbles that, some divisions points are weighed heavier than others. IG points are way heavier than singles points and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what a championship defense or earning points is, how much extra points is. I don't know if you do, but maybe you can give some insight into what some of that looks like.
I don't know either. I remember looking on the schmodownlive.com, and their draft section actually broke down the points. So like, hey, the singles match is worth this, title is worth this, IG is worth this, and they didn't say Star Wars is worth this, but I imagine IG and Star Wars are pretty much going to be the same this year, because the competition is getting more loaded for Star Wars division. But as of right now, I think it's like an extra. If it's a number one contender match, you get an extra point just for being there, I think.
Yeah, so I actually have it in front of me. It says a win is 2 points, and it's 3 points for any Geek Demand Star Wars. A knockout is 1 point. Title loss is 1 point, and a title win is 3 points. 4 points for IG and Star Wars.
Yeah, so going on that, the Finstock exchange is already ahead.
Right.
And we're going to be in after, I don't know how many matches are going to be between now and Atlanta. We're already going to go ahead again because 3 of those competitors in February are all from the exchange.
Right.
So we're in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, it's making it hard for me to want to buy a ticket to Atlanta right now, although I think the exchange is the only faction out of all the factions right now that I may have goodwill with at this moment. So maybe that's the only one I need to go to because I'm likely to get lynched at any other one. But no, yeah, I think Nat brings up a very solid point. I think with those points in mind, sure, I think you have to put a lot of faith into your rookies to say that they're going to come in and they're going to clean house, or that you have a competitor like yourself, Dimilanta, that kind of just had that luck in that first season where it didn't roll with you, but you were clearly playing at a championship level. You and Laura Kelly were toe to toe, and Laura did fairly well against Alex against his match. So, I think that says that you're in that caliber, so to speak. But that we've talked at length already on the your 5-pointer and how that's like a question that nobody knows to begin with. So
Alex didn't even know it.
Well, we know.
Alex didn't even know it.
Yep. I can promise you, I did not know that question. So, so yeah, it gets into that point where it's like, yeah, if you're a manager, you have to sit here and think. So yes, having these champions is great. Having these champions level players are great, but you're only playing that championship level competition, or you're only ever getting into title defenses once you have that belt locked down. So if you're looking at the Founding Fathers, they're not playing until they get a defense. You're looking at Ben, he's not playing until Atlanta.
Well, there is something to also say, like we were discussing this before we went on air, that this is a season where there's going to be more cross-divisional play. Right. And you see that Dan's going into IG, so it's basically his rookie season for IG. You have Riley who's sitting there that still wants to go into singles, and he still has a team with Ben. Ben is a singles champion, but he still has to play in teams with Riley. And Roka's sitting there also. He's saying, he obviously has a team belt, so he's not going to be playing the team's division for a while until he gets to defense. But he's also jumping into singles and Star Wars. So it's not the matter of that we our players can't play because they have titles, but they can play in other divisions. Right. So and of course with the Star Wars, with Roka going into Star Wars and Merle going into IG, that's opportunity for even more points if they can be as dominant as they can be as they've been in teams and singles. So it's not that we're just going to be sitting around, like picking our nose until the teams and singles title has to be on the line. They can jump into other divisions and compete as well. And with Merle, he has to start at the bottom. He doesn't just get that automatic, it's Dan Merle, so put him up against Smets in his first round. You can't do. You have to start at the bottom like everybody else. Right.
Which I love, and I think it shows the true evolution of the whole show kind of moving forward, seeing that, if we're wanting to make this a sports-based thing, you got to have even the competitors like Dan Merle have to sit here and still be putting in the work in other divisions to still keep the points relevant. Real quick, I want to hit somebody in the comments. We got PC in the comments says, what is this show about? Great question, PC. If you're just tuning in and this is your first time checking out AAA Live, we only do this bi-weekly, so I don't blame you. This is our 4th episode so far. AAA Live is trying to be the very Asian sports center of the Schmodown from this channel. We want to come in, we want to sit here and cover some of the perceptions in the field of, like right now, for example, that we think Finstock Exchange statistically is the top faction right now, but there's some debates to say, hey, they've got to be pushing into 3 divisions to stay current for these top players. We have some segments later on in the show. We break down a competitor's weaknesses, and we call it Competitor's Corner, and this is where it's your study guide. If you're a competitor and you're tuning in for this show, you're probably tuning in for this last part saying, how do I beat Alex Damon, who we'll be talking about later with Andrew. And this is kind of where we get into that piece where it's like, okay, here's what his weaknesses are. Here's the stuff that he's had a history of missing. Is kayfabe like an effective strategy? We break it down the stats and with strategies and say, this is how we kind of break it down. So that's kind of the aspect of the show we were going for. Which is developing great with how this season is going. We are going into a full-on sports, so we needed the sports center. Christian Smith in the chat, the very Asian sports center. Yes, thank you. That's just the best way I can describe it. Nat, do you have a better description of it?
I think you summed it up pretty nicely. I mean, if you watch SportsCenter, there aren't a lot of Asians on there, so this is our game. Like this is what we're into. Like we started the show because like we wanted to get into the numbers and get into the maths because we're Asian, get stereotypical. So we want to break it down. We're gonna break down everything about competitors, their kayfabe, the characters, their gameplay, everything.
Right. I see Ed in chat. Ed, I read the comments. Man, listen, 100%, I'm with you. If I wanted to do a very deep dive poll and say, absolutely, let's get the absolutely top 4 people that everybody perceives, I would go through a whole long list of polls, buddy. I am 100% with you on that. That wasn't really our intent. I didn't care who the other top 2, 3, and 4 perceived factions were on that, and that's not that I don't care about those factions. The point of the whole poll in general was the show. Okay, do people think that the Finstock Exchange is the top-rated faction out of all the factions currently? You could have plugged any of the other 3 in there, and it would have been fine. Did not bother.
And that poll is very face value, I would say. Just looking at it, like for all the factions, there's only been 2 matches this season, and they're all like the main event was some of the top 3 players you can argue in the singles division. So just looking at face value, like you have like 3 legends and the current singles champion. How do you not go against the Finstock Exchange? So I would say that like don't take that too personally, because it's just the point of the thing was like, yeah, the Finstock Exchange right now looks like the best.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad somebody got that, Andrew.
And that's why I didn't vote.
I appreciate that. And non-biased stats are great. I think that's awesome. I think I had I don't remember who I voted for. I just clicked on an option just to make sure I could see the results. I might have voted for the Den. I don't know. But I'm a big fan of a lot of people in the Den. So here's my shout out to the Den. No disrespect to any other faction. PC, thanks for answering. No problem, buddy. I got you. Can we get a poll asking who's your favorite AAA live host?
That's gonna only hurt Dylan's feelings. So let's just
guys, let's not talk about that right now. So, anyway, do we have any other points we want to kind of hit on with kind of developing the Finstock Exchange? Is it the top one? Do we kind of have any more counter arguments on that, Nat?
Say that again. You kind of cut off for a second.
Sorry. Do we have any other points we want to bring up with the Finstock Exchange? Top dog, not top dog?
I mean, I think Andrew brings up some really, really good points. Like, when Dan goes in and interviews them, he will be treated like a rookie. He's not going to face top competition. And I think that's mainly the point I was trying to get across. Like, rookies have that advantage of starting at the bottom and working their way to the top. And if they can do that with their rookies and Dan and everyone else, then I think it's gonna be in Finstock Exchange's favor.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Andrew, any other closing thoughts on why your faction is the best faction?
I mean, I said it all before. You have 3 legends of the game, singles title holder. We also have another player that really slipped to out of everybody's sight in Ghai Drake. Like having her go in the 8th round was ridiculous to me, and it's just one of those out of sight, out of mind players. She competed for a team's title. And I think, and with all the conversations that we're all having with each other, because obviously all the competitors are talking to each other on each team, she's very excited for the season. She's very hungry to go into the season and show that she hasn't been like, she's not gone. She's still a top tier competitor.
Right. No, and I do want to kind of bring in Ghai for a second, because I remember seeing her at the awards on my way to the bathroom, and I was just like, oh, Ghai Drake's here. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, Ghai Drake's a super good competitor. Exactly your point. I remember thinking back, like her and MODOK ran all the way to the Patriots, and they came down to, I think, the 5-pointer on that one.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the 5-pointer where they lost on it against them. But, I mean, if we're looking at, even just looking at what the Paddington 2 did against, the family and then Undid, Matt Ashley is half that team. Ghai Drake was killer on her runs on that. She was always been a good competitor. So seeing her kind of floating around really showed not only that recency bias that the Schmodown is criminally terrible about, but even just saying like, oh, out of sight, out of mind. Like, I totally wouldn't have thought about Ghai Drake until I bumped into her. And I'm like, man, that's excellent. Like, that was a huge pick for as late as it was. Yeah, Ed, I know. Not including making everybody upset. You know what? It's fine. They'll get over it, or they won't. That's fine too. That's I'm not trying to show any bias. There's no bias. Listen, I will openly say, and this is me, just me, not AAA or Call to Action or anything. I love all the factions. Literally, there's not a faction I don't like except the Droogs, and they know what they did. So, other than that, yeah, man, all the factions are great. All the love in the world for them. There's no bias. I couldn't pick a bias anyway. I'm picking favorites between my children of factions. There's so many favorites across there. I'm too deep into the Schmodown now, guys. I've drank too much Kool-Aid. I don't have a side. It's an internal struggle, but we'll move on past that. Haskell is broken live now. That's just chat. I'm just leaving chat. Anyway, let's get back into the show, guys. So, moving past the whole Finstock exchange talk, let's talk a little bit about the man behind the curtain himself. Nat, what's this next segment called, my friend?
This next segment is How's My Kayfabe, where we break down a player's character, not necessarily looking at their gameplay or anything, but just looking at who their Schmodown persona is.
Mm-hmm. And in today's episode, we've got Tom Dagnino, Gucci himself, Bobby Gucci himself. Yeah, so I'm glad we're not breaking down gameplay because Tom's last match was fantastic. Talking about a total snub on not winning match of the year, I'm telling you, I'm so upset about that.
Travesty.
You want to just talk about Tom? I mean, you can just talk about Tom in general. It doesn't even
Tom. See, this is the thing. Everybody's, coming from a fan's perspective, and even before I met Tom, I met him in Chicago after my debut at Celebration, and I've seen him a handful of times after that, after live events in Orlando, and obviously at the awards. And you think I bet it's just a character, and he's probably not like that in the real life. Tom is Tom. It might be a little heightened for the Schmodown, just the amount of ridiculous that comes out of his mouth, but he's the exact same dude off screen. He's so chill, and he the amount of stuff that he says and the ridiculous are just as ridiculous as he says on the Schmodown. That's Tom. There's only that are two people that I've met that are almost exactly like their characters on the Schmodown, Roka and Tom. So, I mean, if you ever think I bet he's not like that off screen, it's no, that's 100% what he's like.
Yeah, we can confirm there's no line with Roka. There's no kayfabe. We can't do it with him. But yeah, so me and Nat got to meet Tom at the show, and this is before, just behind the scenes stuff with it. We've always said before that kayfabe, the best version of it being done is it's yourself taken to 11, to 13, to 15, to whatever number video goes on. So you just take yourself and you just amp it up. And yeah, getting to meet Tom for starters, let me take a moment to sit here and say, delightfully nice.
Oh no, I've yet to meet a Schmodown competitor that just wasn't the most welcoming person in the world.
Oh yeah. And in that same way as well, yeah, man, it's wild. Seeing Tom kind of comes off, how would I describe Tom? Tom seems like he is both drunk and confused that he showed up to the Schmodown, but he's not going to let you know that this is a mistake, and he's going to bluff his way through it the entire time. If this is a D&D thing, his charisma is 20, and he nat rolls 20 every time you ask him for anything. He's going to bluff his way through the whole thing. I think the character work it's kind of perfect. It really is. If I'm looking at it from just a strictly manager mindset, Tom's one of those people I'm thinking in a typical heel and face fashion. If I'm a heel, I'm just going to throw him under the bus. He's just going to say something that doesn't make any sense. And it's just not going to, you're going to be like, what do I work with that? You can't just jive with Tom Dagnino. Tom Dagnino is a one person, just conversation. And I think that's actually pretty brilliant, both inside the management stuff and just in your little pre-rant talks. But Nat, is Tom secretly a genius with his kayfabe, or is he just Tom?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, in the Schmodown and wrestling and anything, there are very few people who can be as entertaining as he is, regardless if he's a face or a heel. He's just him.
That's very accurate.
He kind of approached us after the awards, and I was not sober, so I was completely enthralled by him. The things he was saying, wow, just keep talking to me because I actually said to him, when he talks, people listen, and very few people have that quality.
Yeah, I will say, like, when you are talking to Tom, it's like the most interesting conversation you ever had.
Yeah.
You can be talking about, you know, salmon fishing, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. He just has this magical quality, and to like just like make anything he's talking about like immediately interesting. So it's a great quality to have in a manager. I at least I think.
No, yeah, I think it does a lot of, you know, before a lot of the manager's main roles was just to kind of take some of the heat off of the competitors, you know, do pre-promo talks or post-game talks. If you guys are just really feeling that loss, they just kind of take over to the talking for you. And I think Tom is definitely very much a character of that age of manager. So I'm really interested to see where he kind of takes the sports mindset of it all, because I think people really undermine how smart Tom is. And I think the managers all know, because, you know, they interact with him enough.
Yeah, and I will say that when we had Roca on Beyond the Schmodown this past week, I talked to him about, like, this is a very interesting. I'm in a very interesting position in that I've never competed with a manager, and I'm really curious to see how Tom influences my game. And Roca said that he has this amazing ability to just like simplify it. And like, if you're overthinking the game, like, oh, maybe I should do this instead of this, I should put this weakness on. It's like, he has this amazing ability to like just focus you in and make things so like simple and reinforce what you were thinking before, and help you not second guess yourself. So it's like, well, I can't remember the example he gave us. I think it was at the Spectacular when they were spinning, and they had the choice to spin again or stay with whatever they had. And Gucci says, like, well, is there anything else that scares you on the wheel? And just by saying that, they're like, well, let's just go ahead and take this, because, and it ended up working in their favor in the end. So I think if anybody's doubting like how involved Dagnino is with his strategy and everything, I think you need to look at that and talk to the actual players that competed with him, and seeing that he does more than just be this ridiculous character that spews nonsense and try to throw other people off the game just by talking. He is as integral to the game as any other manager would.
Right. And I think that's such a great piece of insight. And if you're, you know what, if you're a Gucci fan, if you're an Andrew Dimilanta fan, which you should, or if you're just, you know, Finstock Exchange and you just want to hear another perspective on Schmodown other than this podcast after you've criminally hated our polls, go check out Beyond the Schmodown on Spotify and any other platform.
We're everywhere. We're on. I made sure before we went live, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Anchor, and everything. So you can find wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find us.
Yep. Also on YouTube, right?
Yes. On our YouTube channel, you just got to go to videosbyandrew.com. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, so and the numbers are still growing. And I'm always amazed by how people perceive our content, because I wasn't so sure about when we started our thing, like maybe 5 people will listen, maybe 10 people will listen, and the numbers just kept going up week after week. I'm like, this is really, really cool. And I've been at the YouTube grind for a long, long time and haven't been able to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark for the longest time. But ever since we started the podcast, it just went boom, it's skyrocketing, and we finally hit the 1,000 mark, which is an amazing achievement for me and my wife.
Right. No, yeah, I'm super proud of you and Nikki. Nikki, right? I'm not mixed. All right.
Yes, Nikki. Yes.
All right. Yeah, you, Nikki, both. I've got to listen to those 2 episodes. I want to make sure we get a plug as many times as possible throughout the show.
Me too.
We want to get those numbers up. Also, it doesn't hurt to like and subscribe our own channel, guys. Call to Action Podcast. You're already here. But the Beyond the Schmodown stuff, 1,000 number. Oh, God, that's huge. Like, that's so stoked. We're still working our way up the mountain on that one. 1,000.
It is such a grind. Such a grind.
It is, man. We've been doing pretty well after the awards and everything like that, so I don't want to talk about this, but we're not here to talk about us. That's fine. We're here to talk about Andrew Dimilanta, Tom Dagnino, and I guess the Finstock Exchange for most of this episode, because they bought us out this episode, guys. You don't know how big the check was. It was huge, though. But yeah, no, I love that there's that insight piece, and that's part of the reason why we also wanted to have you on the show, is getting that kind of very Schmodown backstage feel, that behind-the-scenes look, and saying, wow, you know, it's interesting that Tom really actually does deliver, and he's a little bit more brains than everybody gives him that credit for.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of common misconception about managers in the past. So like they're just really there to be a character. They're really there just to talk into the microphone. It's like when you talk to competitors, it's like, no, it's way more than that. And I think especially somebody like Emma really pioneered the whole getting together and studying, because I think somebody said that nobody ever did that before the Five Club, and now that the Five Club seem to be very successful with their study sessions, every other faction is doing it now. So so it's just that thing that we're like, how valuable are managers? What do managers do? And I think especially with this season, it's going to even come into play even more. So if people that have been doing it in the past, it's just heighten that much more this season.
So this does kind of lead me into a little bit of a parallel conversation. So if we got Tom Dagnino as obviously the manager of the whole Finstock exchange, but I think a lot of people are sitting here thinking, they're like, yeah, but you also got Ben Bateman, who is kind of the pseudo manager, and he's gotten, as we already know, if you've been watching backstage, everybody, he was trying to make some manager moves there for a while leading up to the draft. Does it feel better knowing that you kind of got that analytical brain with Ben in there being like kind of a pseudo manager, or does it feel like cooks in the kitchen?
110%. I said this on Shield Action. I said it on our show. Ben Bateman is the best strategic player I have ever seen. He's easily the best strategic player they've ever seen. If you listen to him on backstage, his game is transcends everything he does. He plays the game when the game's not being played. And just the way he looks at wheel slices, he looks at how he studies his opponent. He goes on other podcasts when they're guests just to get that little bit of information that he needs for his opponent. That's that kind of stuff that you need to do, especially now in the Schmodown, how competitive it is now. Because 2 years ago, the Schmodown wasn't as competitive as it is now. It was mostly just friends getting together to play trivia. But now it's grown into this amazing beast where that little bit of information can help you win a match. And Bateman does this better than anybody I've ever seen. So having him on the same faction and be able to have him in my corner, it excites me to no end because Roka said this on our last episode when we had him on, is that not only are you getting the strategic mind of Ben Bateman, you're getting the passion of Roka. You're getting like the knowledge base and like just the pure like just zen of Dan Murrell. And you have all these people that you can pull from, and especially like the experience of Gray Drake, and you have the muscle with BC, and it's just a pure intimidation factor. So there's so many people on our faction that I'm excited to learn from and help us up our game with each other, helping each other out. So I think absolutely having Ben Bateman on your team helps you with that little bit that you need.
Right. Is there like a big text group or like some
yes.
Yeah.
If I would not doubt that every team has a big group DM that we're all talking to each other and just sharing each other's study habits and just like bouncing off ideas for like entrances or something like that. Just that alone, I think guaranteed every faction has a group DM or a group text chain or something like that, just to communicate with each other. Because especially for me, I'm all the way on the East Coast while everybody else is in LA. Right. I'm all the way here in Orlando. And I think BC's also in. I think he's in Texas, and I think that's the only other. Me and him are the only ones that are out of LA. Everybody else is in LA, so they can get together and do everything. But me and BC are out of the thing, so it benefits being in that group. So I would not doubt that every other faction has a huge group chain and just communicating with each other even before the season started.
Yeah, I love hearing that as a fan too, because I think it's very easy to sit here and see the factions be very surface level stuff and not see the impact of the game. But I think if you're one of those fans like myself or Nat or you that is so deeply involved into it, like we just see like the possibilities are endless, right? And seeing that deep level of investment and seeing people keeping in touch because a couple committed like yourself, like being East Coast. I mean, I'm East Coast and whatever. I'm not a part of the show at all, so it makes no difference to me. But sitting here thinking, just having that difference of space and time, that relevancy kind of that hurts not being constantly in the spear of things. So I think being part of such a faction that is so like just a Rushmore of faction people on the top picks on does so much for everybody on that one.
From a France perspective, it feels to me like we're at the most competitive that we've ever been in the Schmodown. Like we mentioned before we went on air, that now there's a team-based sport. Like people are relying on each other more. People want to win more. So I think that definitely heightens everything up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's almost too competitive, right? Like I'm just like, where do we go from here? Everybody,
it's extremely competitive. You saw that switch with Meyer and Bibbs in the New York event. Like you look at their past matches, it's like they're more having fun, just for the love of the game. Now, like Bibbs got really intense. Meyer got really intense in that match because they want to win the match, not just for themselves, but for their faction. Right. So the amount of like trash talk online is just proof of how this changed the game like dramatically.
Yeah, I'm just loving the evolution of that. And we could talk all day on it. We try to fit as much time as possible into it beforehand so we could talk on that one. And If you want to check out more of Andrew Dimalanta's thoughts on the show, check out Beyond the Showdown, guys.
Beyond the Showdown.
Catch it on anywhere you can catch any audio podcast. You can also catch it on YouTube. Don't forget there's a Patreon, Andrew.
Yes, there is the Patreon. You go to patreon.com/Andrew and Nikki, NICKI. So ANDREWANDNICKI. We are calling our little Patreon group the Squadron. So hopefully one day it gets big enough to where we have this friendly little competition against the Action Army and the Squadron at live events. I would love to see that. And so head over there to help us. We as of right now we only have 2 tiers because I'm just kind of testing the waters right now. But we have exclusive content. You get extra 10 minutes with our guests, so you can just talk stuff beyond the Schmodown as the show entails. And we have a lot of other things planned too. So depending on how things go with that, we're gonna start other things and help the channel and just our content grow.
Oh yeah. So wanted to make sure we do that plug. I know it sounds like we're wrapping up. We're not, guys. We got one more second. I also wanted to make sure I had that plug because my computer was freezing up there for a minute. So if I just looked like that for a little bit, that's because I had Andrew Dimilanta doing the whole distraction. You guys didn't know any better. That's because we're an award-winning channel. Anyway, yeah, Andrew and Nikki are going to give us a run for our money this year just by the popularity alone. You guys are killing it.
Thank you.
But let's get into this last segment, guys. So, Nat, can you tell PC and a couple other people in here who, or rather, what Competitor's Corner is?
Okay, so Competitor's Corner is where we basically break down a certain competitor, their strengths, of which there are many for our competitors today, and their weaknesses, for which there are a few today. And we're basically going to be creating a study guide and telling competitors how if we were their manager, how we would advise them to beat them.
Exactly right. So before I transition into this, I want to start out by saying me and Nat did not do a lot of homework for this episode. Spoiler alert. We had Andrew Dimilanta on it. We talked with him for at least a little while about this whole segment already, so I didn't want to sit here and do it because I had Andrew's great brain do a lot of the research to begin with. So if we seem extra lazy and this is your first episode, we normally do more research, which is also why we have now hired somebody on backstage behind the show, Megan McCurley, if I'm making sure I'm getting that right, because I knew I was going to mess up that name, Nat, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. We got her working on all the stats stuff. She's going to be our stats lady on that. I want to give her a special plug early on, so if she tunes in and just happens to catch this, Megan, we respect you, and we thank you for all the hard work that you're saving us.
Seriously, a godsend, and we appreciate you so much.
Yes. So special plug to Megan McCurley. She's going to be providing us with some stats on future episodes moving forward. But this episode, we have a cheat sheet named Andrew Dimalanta in front of us. Let's get into it, guys. We're in Competitor's Corner. And today we're breaking down Alex the Demon, Unstoppable Damon. Andrew, is he unstoppable? How do we
He is not unstoppable. He is anybody's beatable. Damon is not an exception. So looking at Damon, I mean, now I will say this: a huge asterisk on what all the weaknesses I'm gonna tell. Star Wars is that unique beast in the Shimoda where strategy matters the absolute least. It ultimately comes down to knowledge and who forgets that one stupid fact. Who forgets the 12th moon of Yout, basically. So just obviously looking back on his matches, I feel, and this could have changed. He might have tightened this up in the past couple of matches. He might have worked on this, because if anything, any strong champion, any strong competitor knows work on your weaknesses first, and then everything else falls into place. Looking back on his matches, and this isn't a secret because he said this to me and on public forum before. He struggles with out of universe questions and movie quotes. So those are the two things. So when I say out of universe, it's like actors, directors, producers, things like that. Like, and movie quotes, he just doesn't have that mindset of memorizing lines and watching things over and over and retaining the lines. And because when it comes down to like quotes, you have to get it exactly as it comes. And when you look at his past matches, one question that he actually was given the points for that I don't think he should have was Darth Vader's first line in A New Hope. And he said, what is it? What are those plans you received instead of intercepted? And they gave him the points because it was close enough. But like really, when you look at if that question gets asked now, and you say the wrong word, one of the wrong words, you don't get those points. but he went ahead and got those points, and it rears its head again with his match with Knapsack at Spectacular. It was when he said make rocks float instead of make things float. So that's another quote thing that he misses. And another miss that he had with the triple threat with Knapsack and Scrimshaw was the whereas I can't remember what movie location, like shooting location, and it didn't matter anyways because he didn't need the points. So you look at, and it's very, very rare that Alex misses, but the misses that he does have are in those categories. So, and again, this could be all changed. So if any of the Star Wars competitors are like, hey, this is great information. If I do get that shot at Alex, this is what I need to focus on. What it really boils down to is stupid dumb luck that he'll get that question, which is like almost like 99% that he won't get that question. So really what it boils down to is just dumb luck that he gets that question, or you edge him out in the speed round. That's really what's going to come down to when you face Alex.
Right. And I think that you make some great points on that. Just noticing those out of lore questions, because I know if I wanted to rewatch those episodes, so what I'll give you behind the scenes look on how we typically would study this stuff is that myself or Nat or both, if there's a gratuitous amount of matches, we would look anything within the past season. We only want to say a year span because people can study and get better, kind of as you said, like Alex could easily shape these up, and these are more. I'm inclined to think that it still could just be, if he's going to have any weakness, it's going to be that, and especially with him transitioning into Inner Geekdom, where everybody said this is going to be the year that Alex is going to finally lose the belt because he's trying to spread himself to a different division. I would agree that I think that even if he studied those up, then it's staying exactly as precise on these questions. Star Wars is that division where there's not really a lot of horseplay. There's not really a lot of kayfabe. You don't see a lot of in-game smack talk. Like there's like none. I think really even at most we have like Knapsack. Knapsack's really like the only true kayfabe character that's in the show.
Scrimshaw does. Scrimshaw does play a character to a point.
Yeah, Scrimshaw. That's true. Scrimshaw has some banter and he has some stuff like that, but it never feels. I would guess traditionally heel, so to speak, is what I would say. Like of course, my thought goes to Andrew Ghai or to any of like just the typical shit talkers. They're going to sit there and try to stir up, get in your head, and kind of get that. You don't really get a whole lot of that in Star Wars. Maybe behind the scenes, but in the match specifically, we don't see a lot of.
And that's because of how small the division has been in the past. We've gotten a handful of players that really bolster the division now, but that's just the fact that we don't get as many Star Wars matches, so we don't have that time to develop the characters and things like that. So. But especially with this, I think it's gonna ramp up, especially now that we have a manager, like sort of a mouthpiece for these competitors that really wouldn't be great at playing characters to a certain degree. So I think this is the season where we see the Star Wars division evolve both in competition wise with more competitors and both with storylines because of that extra little piece with the manager helping those characters develop.
Right. Yeah, I agree. As far as being able to see it develop, I think this is going to be the year to do it because managers if they're drafting Star Wars players, they want to see those players get matches.
Yes.
Nat, what's kind of your take? Do you think that, at least kind of thinking on the kayfabe side of things, because we can sit here and say, Damon, you just need to hit more questions. Like it's the simplest version of beating a player. But do you think the kayfabe side will kind of evolve into a way that it'll come into the gameplay and be a crucial part, like it kind of has with singles and teams?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does because kayfabe is my favorite part of the Schmodown, and I've never really thought that Star Wars needed it because it's just so competitive. Like I'm a casual Star Wars fan. I've seen all the live action movies and everything, but like these questions are so hard. Like I don't even know. I see these matches and I'm like, have I actually seen these movies? It's so competitive, and I love it when people are duking it out at something they're passionate about, and I think kayfabe is only going to help elevate that.
Yeah, I think it's the missing element from it right now. And Andrew, I think you made a great point. There's just not enough time to flesh out characters. At most, we've had kind of those little skits where like Damon force ghosted and then like Ken like fell through him or something like. There's been little like nuds, but there's not really been like a full development or storyline or anything like that.
Yeah.
This season, I'm so stoked. I really want to see that really fleshed out because I think the big thing with Competitors Corner that I like mentioning is that kayfabe is such a strong element in the match. I think, sure, if you look at not only just your gameplay, looking at, using JTEs and challenges is effectively picking up the wheel slices, there's all that part, sure. We can kind of study you on that, but in this specific instance, Damon is just well-rounded across all the categories. I can't say pick one, maybe pick two quotes, but then you might roll it and hope that you're better at it than him. But the thing that I always love about it is seeing how that kayfabe personality can really add in an extra layer of gameplay knowledge. As we've seen, the match I love quoting the most with that is obviously going to be Andrew Ghai versus Dan Murrell. Dan, obviously was off his game for that one, coming back on that one, but it didn't help that he had Andrew Ghai in his ear the whole time, driving him off the walls. I think if another great example would be, formerly the Looney Band. I don't know how I would even feel just standing trying to do answer movie trivia next to Tom and Drew. Like that's just so much going on that I'm like, my head's not going to be in the movie trivia questions. It's very distracting in itself. And I think that's an extra layer that really I want to see fleshed into all the divisions. I think it's been creeping into IG for a while, obviously with Mike, upping the next levels, and Smets having a lot more flavor in there as well.
I think it's full blown in IG right now. Did you see
I think with Minowski, Smets is a great example of that. Even Hannah has a character that he plays during his matches too. So
can I just take a side note to brag on Brandon Hanna for a second to say that I'm so excited for his next match with Chandru, because they've got Chandru Hanna 3 built up to be this Rocky-like match, and he's told me his kind of like pseudo strategy behind the scenes. I'm not going to say it live or behind, but I just cannot wait to watch it live. That's all I'm going to say. I cannot wait to see how Hanna handles that rematch, because it's going to happen eventually. Like, it just will.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, between those two, it's going to get there. I see Jake shushing me in there. Don't worry, buddy. I'm not spilling any secrets. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Brandon Hanna and Chandru, but we are here to talk about Damon and all of that. So let me just do a quick recap, make sure I got this right, Andrew. This is your rough study guide and kind of mine and Nat's random additions to this. Alex Damon, you can bleed. You got to get him into questions. You got to hope that the questions fall out of the Star Wars universe, in that they're not asking lore or movie questions, but rather who's
production,
who's this location, who exactly, all of the real world stuff that nobody wants to really learn. I want to talk about the movie. I don't want to talk about these actors, but so these questions will be the closest thing he has to an Achilles heel, and this is all with a big giant asterisk. If he studies up on it and really shapes it up, Alex Damon may have no weaknesses, but again, everybody's big line is, okay, well, he's crossing over to IG, then that means he's not studying Star Wars 24/7. This is going to be the time where he's going to be a little bit duller than usual.
Yeah, well, what we'll say about that, not studying 24/7, Alex already studies 24/7. He does it for a living. So, it's like, well, yeah, he's splitting his attention, but really, is he splitting his attention? I'm pretty sure Alex can do most of these matches in his sleep. And that's just the reality of it, that he I said this on Chill Action, the sole purpose of him starting his channel was to study Star Wars for Dragon Con. That took him 6 years to get.
Right.
Like, it's the amount of, because I was following him way back before the Star Wars Schmodown was a thing, and he did a video every single day of the week, and it was these minute-long things of this information, this random thing that he needed to study for. So it's like, yeah, he's splitting his attention, but he's not really splitting his attention, because he's still got to make a living off of his channel, and he's doing the work anyways.
Right. Yeah, and for those who don't know, check out Star Wars Explained, Alex Damon. While we're trying to figure out how to crush this man, go check out his channel. He has a great channel explaining Star Wars. Pretty simple stuff. You think until you start watching that stuff, and you're like, man, I swear I have watched the Star Wars, but this seems all foreign concept to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And man, I love the books too. I'm there with you, Nat. Like, Nat, I'll say that I'll take it a step further. I fucking love Star Wars. I've read the audiobooks. I've kept up with all of the new Disney canon, which has been fun, and most of it. Kept up with some of the old canon as it kind of comes and goes and everything. But I'm telling you, man, we get into these Star Wars matches, and I'm just like, where did this happen? I want to just raise my hand and be like, sir, where in the movie is this explained ever? So let's go ahead and transition away from Alex Damon. Let's just sit here and just chat with Dimilanta while we got him. We'll round out another 10 minutes or so. This is a pseudo chill episode. If you really like Andrew Dimilanta and you want a more casual talk with him about Schmodown and everything, go check out Chill to Action. Also on this channel, we had him on earlier this week. He's doubling down on it. We're not double dip, Andrew.
Got to get my face out there.
Oh yeah, Sean Sullivan, maybe a guy or really miss the Star Wars Minute format. And then of course we got Jillian in here as well. Shout out to both of them. Love them both. We had a great time talking with them at the boards and stuff. Sean, obviously a name you need to be keeping an eye on there.
Yes, it's very interesting how quickly he went, going second Star Wars competitor off the board after Alex.
Right.
He went before like known competitors like myself, Laura Kelly, Joseph Scrimshaw, who went extremely late for how competitive he is in the division. So it's an interesting thing to look at, and so yeah, he's definitely somebody that if they know something about him, he's going to make splashes in the division.
Mm-hmm. I've only got to talk with him and just talk briefly on Star Wars and nerdy, geeky stuff. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. But here's my big thing. If I talk with you about just geeky stuff in general and I start to see those eyes light up with that passion, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, I've opened the can of worms. Like when I start talking about this, I usually feel pretty confident in that. And I'm not just going to say that for Sean. Sean, you've had that. I have the same feeling with Andrew in this one, though. And I'm backing Andrew because he's on our show right now. So I told him before the show and I'll tell him after. I got Andrew being the next Star Wars champion. I think that's a bold thing, Nat. Am I bold? Am I bold on that?
I think it's a very fair prediction.
Are we just trying to get good, more exchange faith over here? Or are we just no? I
will just lean into it at this point.
Yeah. If you don't believe us, you can go see our review of him and Laura's match, which is probably a match that Andrew doesn't want to go watch immediately anytime soon. But listen, man, no matter what, you played it all the way to a 5-pointer and all the way to a point where
that's both my matches, both matches were last points, last question.
Last point, last question, and it was the smallest. Like the question was impossibly hard for the 5-pointer, but the smallest mistake is the only reason you fell behind. Otherwise, it's literally a tie game for you and Laura throughout the whole match, man.
Yeah, and I said this to Roka as much when we had him on our show. All my matches have been in the first round, like silly, stupid mistakes, and I think being a part of the faction and having like people like Roka, Ben, Riley, and Merle, and just having that experience behind me will help me bring my game to that level where I am going to get to see Alex down the road. So it's just, because you look at my matches, it's so like competitive and it's so like down to the last point that little bit is going to get me over that hump. And I said it on Chill. I said it on other shows that we've had on our show in the past. Is that the thing that really hurt me was underestimating the game and not so much underestimating my opponent, because it was so close. It's just the matter that I did my research, I did my studying, and that one thing that I thought that wasn't going to be asked got asked. So it's just this thing of now me just adjusting my habits, adjusting my gameplay, and just really getting to that next level that I need to get at. And we've already started doing that. I gave it 3 weeks after my loss to Kelly, and then we were right back in it. So yeah, just right back in it, rewatching the movies while I'm doing research, studying while I'm home, and just of that nature. Like before my match with Kelly, I didn't watch anything but Star Wars and the TV shows that my daughter watches to distract her, and that was really all I was doing. So because I fell behind all the things, I still have yet to get to Stranger Things. The new seasons I haven't watched it yet.
No hard feelings.
So it's things like that I sacrifice to prepare for these matches. So it's just that hopefully that little bit that's going to push me over the edge and finally get to that shot at Damon.
Right, and I think you got a hell of a people in your corner, as you mentioned, a bunch of legends up on that one. Sean Sullivan pointing out in here, I think Andrew will face Damon before I do, but in the starting position, and I think that Andrew will crush Damon when he does.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Crush is big words, Sean. And
Crush. And we said this off air that it really is going to come down to, because again, it's either stupid luck that he gets a question that he doesn't know, which is going to be very rare, and very slim. It's really going to come down to those extra rounds. I can almost see it coming down to the speed round. That's because we can be tied up until that point, and that whoever buzzes in first wins the title. And I think that's what it's going to come down to.
No, I think that's going to be the human element part of it is going to be, again, it's the little stuff where it's like, you guys may both know it, but who knows it first? And that's going to be
exactly. Or who forgets it first, or who slips up, because you saw this in this match with Ken.
Yep.
The Darth Maul question, he stumbled on his words, lost the point because of it. So it's like it's something like that might need to happen, or something around those lines is going to have to happen to get that belt away from him.
Right.
And, I can study all I want. If I mess up that little bit, it costs the match. So
I kind of love one, that competitors are tuning into the show because that is its main ambition, especially with the tail end of it. But I love more specifically that I have the Star Wars division, and it just feels like the Star Wars division against Alex Damon at this point. Because it's like we just want to topple this tyrant already.
Yeah, and you might not know, like it might not be this year. He will end up losing that title, if not by me, maybe by Sean, maybe by somebody that we haven't seen yet. There are talent like Damon, better than Damon out there, because again, you look at Dragon Con, which is 10 times harder than the Schmodown because it encompasses everything. It took him 6 years to get that. And he said he constantly went up against the same exact person year after year after year. So it's like, what happens when that person decides to come to the Schmodown? Then it's like, all right, then it's just gonna be him and Damon slugging it out for the title every year. So it's not the fact that like nobody can beat them. It's just we haven't found that person just yet. Right. Maybe we have found that person. So it's again, it might be dumb luck. It might be the person that knows him better than most people do.
Andrew, I don't like what you're telling me here, because you're saying we haven't found that person yet, and I'm like, Andrew, I've told you, I put money on this season. You're gonna take this title from Alex Damon. I want to hear that confidence. This is
no. I'm just strictly just like, oh, people look at Alex as this unbeatable force. Nobody's unbeatable in the Schmodown.
Absolutely,
like anything can happen. We've seen huge upsets in the Schmodown, and it's just looking at the pure thing that like maybe we have, maybe we haven't. So. It's just all these factors that go into a match. That's why I love Toronto so much. It's not just like, answering questions. It goes deeper than that. And I'm hoping, I'm knowing that that I have the ability to take on Damon. It's just I haven't gotten that opportunity yet.
Right. Well, don't build up too much. Take your time. Breathe for everything that isn't the speed round. That
is actually one of the things I've been working on. With my past matches. With my stumble with 725 to 1, I looked back on that and just reflecting on that. The reason I tripped up on that question is I answered too quickly. It was a stupid rookie mistake on my part. I went, 725, forgot to put to 1, and I put my board down and I just sat there and waiting. When I had, and I'm spending a lot of my efforts just reminding myself, you have 15 seconds, sometimes 20 seconds to answer this question. Take the full 15. And if in my next matches, and if you see me taking more time than normal, and people are like, "Oh, he's doing the Ben Bateman thing," maybe not. So it's just one of those things where I'm looking at my game strategically and taking it to the next level.
I mean, there's a reason why Ben Bateman is the champion. Like, and he does what he does. Like, that stuff works. And to me, I think Alex Damon is kind of like the Death Star. He seems unbeatable, but everything has his weaknesses. Everything can beat, and I'm just so excited for this.
It's just a matter of, does he get that question, that 12th movie out question, basically. And like, there's one of the things that I have issues with the past couple of Star Wars matches. The match of Laura Kelly, especially for the first round, seemed very simple. Like the question, it's like, this is a title match. We need to bring the questions up more. And I really wish we would see more out of universe questions, because not only because I think it's a weakness of his, it's just that in every other division, Inner Geekdom, singles and teams, we see questions like that all the time. We very rarely ever see that in Star Wars. And I think it's just because of the fandom. And I really wish the Skillicky and the team of writers would look at this and like, all right, we need more questions like this. And especially, it's like, you can save the questions can be the same tier as they've been in the past for just regular Star Wars matches. But once we get to that Damon match, the questions need to get exponentially harder, because if you want, I know Christian wants somebody to take down Damon. I've had this conversation before. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to find somebody to take this guy down. It's like, well, you need to make the questions harder. Right. Because if you make them easy questions, guaranteed he'll have those on lock. So the easier you make the questions, you give the opportunity for the challenger to get points, but you're guaranteeing points for Damon. So just anybody, if the writers are listening, if Christian's listening, step up the questions, especially for a title match with Damon, because you're not going to see that happen unless you do.
If you guys want, you can clip that and throw that at Christian Harloff and tag.
Please do, because if you do make the questions harder, I can guarantee I will be prepared for those. Because again, I've been studying every single day. I've been watching at least 2 movies every single day, and like even the crappy ones. I've seen Rise of Skywalker 5-6 times now. I'm gonna see even more. So I might resort to shady things to be watching that movie every day, even though I don't want to admit to it, but it might have to come down to that. So
See, that's that confidence I want to hear from you, Andrew.
Exactly.
I want to see you seeing what you did wrong. Look back on those losses, man, because you got to find the wisdom to learn from the mistakes that you made.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely have. I've gotten words of wisdom from John Roca about going into matches, and so it's just something that's the thing that I love being a part of this faction, because I can get information about that, tweak my game to benefit me getting wins. So. It's just small things like that. I'm just barely there. I just need that little extra bit to send me over.
Well, you're out of your rookie season. You're working your way into that second year, even though it's only been a couple matches. But that's Star Wars, baby. Welcome to the game. But you're officially past that rookie season. You're making these smart decisions. You've got a host full of good brains on this faction of yours. Some people say the best faction. That's TBD. Check out.
I think it is. Yeah. I mean, on paper, it says the best faction. I believe we have, from top to bottom. Roca said this on our show. I would not be surprised at some point during the season the Finstock Exchange does all the belts. I would not be surprised. We have the talent for it, especially with not just because of the Horsemen. We have some really good talent on this team. I think people might be sleeping on Emily. Emily, if you look at the difference between Emily's first and her second match, it's night and day. And it's been so long since her last match that she's putting in the work to get over that hump and get those wins that we need. Again, Gray Drake, another person, competitor everybody slept on. The Barbarian is like 100%, and we set it off here. He wants to go into three divisions. He wants to compete in all three divisions. So it's just things like that I'm seeing in our faction, that we could be holding all the belts at some point in the season. Dan could be triple belted by the end of the season.
Dan can hold
Can you just take a moment to think about that? The first triple belted champion in all the Schmelden, and it's what a lot of people think is the greatest to ever play the game.
Yeah. I mean, if you told me your blind prediction for the end of the season is Dan Merle has 3 belts by the end of time, I wouldn't bet against it. I'll put it that way.
The only other person I can say that about is probably Rachel Cushing.
Yeah.
She and I said it on Shield. Rachel's my greatest of all time. Just for the simple fact of, Kalinowski's competing in three divisions. Merle's going to be competing in 3 divisions. Right, to compete in 3 divisions is one thing, but to go into title shot in every single one is next level. And I told her this at the awards, like, I think you're the best to ever do it. And she obviously shrugged that off. And if she worked at it, she could compete in all 4 and be dominant in all 4. And that's just what a special player she is. But if Dan does go and goes at the very least gets to a title shot, I'm gonna change my opinion. Dan will automatically be the greatest to ever do it.
Yep, I'm there with you. I'll give it to Dan if he gets to that level, but we will see. The IG League didn't get any easier this past season.
We thought the teams division was stacked this past season. The IG is so stacked this year with
IG,
the amount of
I think the IG is the toughest division this year. Like, I really do. And I said for a long time,
you have to take the Star Wars League into consideration.
And I totally do. Like, Star Wars, it feels like every one of you guys is a championship level competitor, so that doesn't make it any easy.
I will say the aside from being like the unique beast of knowledge base in Star Wars, that's the only division I think once Alex loses that title shot, when she loses that title, it's fair game, and anybody in the division at any given point can have that title. Just the pure passion of Star Wars fans and people in the division, anybody can hold that belt at that time, because you can say people are like, why is Star Wars a division? Why is this thing still a division? Go back and look at every single one of those matches. -1. They've all been nail biters. They've all been great matches. Yeah, I know. I know. -1. They've all been great matches. So you can cry all you want. Fans can cry all they want. Star Wars isn't going anywhere, and I don't think it should, because it's one of the best, the hardest divisions to compete in. Probably the hardest division to compete in, just because of the fact that all the competitors are so knowledgeable.
I don't argue that one bit either. I can tell you my first live event was Chicago. So seeing that Star Wars live, man, it was insane. The Star Wars match stole the whole show from Who's the Boss and Odd Couple.
Yeah, it went from being a double main event to the Odd Couple one.
There's the dog! Yes.
Say hello, Indiana.
There it is.
There you go.
In the chat, and I'm like, I'll keep this episode going until we get dog. But
Somebody asked for my dog in the chat. I know I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, show me dog. It goes on for a minute, but anyway, we won't go on any longer. We've reached a little bit over an hour, so that's where we're going to do our stuff. Andrew Dimilanta, our favorite host of this week. Where can they find you at, my friend?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Drew Dimalanta, Dimalanta. I got to spell it out for everybody because my last name is hard to pronounce and to spell. You can also find me on YouTube at videosbyandrew.com. You find the our podcast. No, Dimal, not I. See, it tells you. See, I've gotten so many Dimalanta. I've gotten so many iterations of it. I always have to spell it out for everybody. But exactly. But you can also find me on YouTube. You just go to videosbyandrew.com. You can find our new podcast, Beyond the Schmodown. We had John Roca on this past week. You can find Beyond the Schmodown on all platforms, wherever you listen to your podcast audios. You can find it there. And also the Patreon. Can't forget it this time. There it is. You can go to Patreon. Yes. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You go to patreon.com/Andrew and Nikki ANDNICKI. We only have 2 tiers again. Again, just seeing it where the numbers are at, and it continues to grow, we'll add more tiers. But like we were constantly doing the 10 extra minutes with our guests. We had 10 extra minutes with John Roca talking about the future of the Outlaw Nation. He has some great ideas for it. And also another thing that's coming down the pipeline, a new Star Wars segment is going to be going on the channel. I'm not going to exactly reveal all about what that is just yet, but if you love Star Wars and you love talking Star Wars, you love hearing me talk about Star Wars, I wanted more Star Wars content on my channel. It's just hard to get videos shot and turned around in a day or two with full-time work and, having a child. It's hard to do that. So, but hopefully this will help bring more Star Wars content onto the channel. So if you love Star Wars, again, head over to videosbyandrew.com.
There you guys heard it. That's Andrew Dimilanta stuff. Go check it out immediately. I'm sure me and Nat will be on that Beyond show anytime now. We're waiting for our advice.
we do have a couple of guests. Not this coming weekend, but next week we're going to have Shazam on. So I'm really looking forward for that. They're going to be on at the same time. So we'll see how the logistics of that work out.
Logistics with audio and 4 people on that. It's always fun. Yeah. Hey, I got all the faith in the world. I've been listening to these recent episodes because I told myself I'm going to go do it, not just because you happen to be on the show, but also because you're our competition now. You're in the same league.
We're coming for that award next season.
We're coming for it, baby. We'll see. We were champs for a reason, Dimilanta. You saw the year we've had. We ain't getting any slower. Our polls are getting worse, though. Nat, where can they catch you at, buddy?
I'm Nat Vu in the Facebook groups. You can find me on Twitter at NattyIce44. You can follow the podcast at Call Action Pod, where 2 weeks from now, we will probably be pissing more people off.
Hell yeah. I'm, of course, your host, Dylan Camacho. You can catch me here on this show every other week. We do this every other week. I think we'll have an amendment week coming up here soon. I think I have something coming up. I may have one of my foster kids' basketball games on a Thursday. So that's behind the scenes, guys. Sorry. That's foster, not dad, foster therapist stuff. All that aside, you can catch me on Twitter at CAMACH Octopus. If you thought Dimilanta was hard, say that word. No, last name is Camacho here. I got you guys. That's Dimilanta. You don't even know his name anymore. He already plugged. Get your time out of here. There you go. Camacho. There's that. Now, add Octopus at the end of that. And there you go. That's my Twitter handle. Go find me on Twitter. I almost never tweet. You can also catch me doing any hotcakes or any stuff on this channel. Make sure to subscribe and to this channel, guys. Andrew got to 1,000. We're at I think we just crossed over 400 or so. I don't know the number in front of me right now. Go get us to that 1,000 mark because we want to keep up with Andrew Dimilanta. He just came in and stole that 1,000 mark. He's been working hard. He's earned it.
I've been working at this YouTube grind for more than 3 years, so I've got that on me.
Oh yeah. So you've got double, like a year or more. I don't know. This channel's been around for a minute, but we've been really boosting our asses these last years. That's beside the point, guys. Thank you for watching AAA Live. If you liked everything that you saw, make sure to like the channel, like the video, hit that little bell so you get notification whenever we do go live. It's every other week, so you're like, oh man, what's AAA Live? Oh, it's back. Now you'll know with that notification on it. And that's it. If you want to see a specific competitor come on that happens to be Asian, make sure to hit in the comments below. Drop some recommendations. We're working on with everybody, man. We hit up everybody at Spectacular and the awards. That's our show. Tune in next time to see who we got then. We'll see you later, guys. Have a good one. And then my favorite part